always question why and always question how can they become better, because in that is your opportunity.
Welcome everyone to our third episode of Hear the Herd. We're the herd and you're hearing us. And thank you to everyone who attended our last event, which was the TMG Taste of Marketing event. We had almost 300 people show up, but today we have a special guest and I would like to introduce Shiv Kamal. Thank you for coming today. So what's your story and how did you get from a student to a marketing lead?
Yeah. First of all, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Pleasure to talk to you as well.
I honestly, it feels like yesterday I was a student, and if I kind of think about my journey, it was interesting because I actually have a background in marketing and technology, but it wasn't the path I originally started in. I was a student at Ryerson University. I did a program at that time called Information Technology Management. Now it's called Business Technology Management, and there's really two streams you could go. You could either learn how to build a technology or you could learn how to sell it. I enjoyed, like coding and whatnot, but I really couldn't write code to save my life.
No,
but I really, yeah, I don't know how they do what they do, but really every time they do it, it looks like they're in the Matrix to me.
Yeah.
But I really enjoyed building relationships, and I was I would say fairly good at telling stories about how technology can make an impact, how it kind of like works in this way. So I made the connection of, instead of building technology, I was going to sell it. And I really initially started off in software sales, just like almost like very like Wolf of Wall Street, pick up the phone, dial, very aggressive kind of sales role. And eventually I kind of moved over to marketing because I had this epiphany of there's a better way to get leads, instead of calling someone, waiting for an opportunity. I was really starting to quickly discover that the way people buy and like the whole like almost like psychology of how people research is almost in itself a pattern, and kind of learning that pattern and applying it to like marketing principles. And one day the light bulb just went off and I was like, you know what, I'm going to switch over from sales to marketing, and I never looked back since.
So you talked about the technological marketing, right? What do you most enjoy about selling in the technology market?
It really, honestly, like as a tech marketer, I think it really depends on how you align yourself. I've had the privilege of doing both product marketing in tech and also services marketing. So, like product, you're working for a product company, usually like software as a service. They have something that they're selling for like a monthly fee, and it's like repeatable. And what I really enjoy, and I think what I kind of really got behind that, was when you really have something that makes a difference and you can stand behind it. And I think, first and foremost, I know there's some really like cold, hard salespeople there, but I think genuinely as a marketer, when you find the value prop behind what your company's actually selling or what they're building, it gets very easy to tell that story. And then the other side to services marketing. And I think that's where I genuinely enjoy it the most, because there you're selling the expertise of your colleagues. And genuinely, like if you work with a great set of people, if you have great relationships with them, if they're the ones educating you on kind of like what's going on, it's very easy to kind of rep that talent and say, hey, like you want to work with these people. They're genuinely going to help your business.
Culture is really important. And I really like how that if you couldn't, you still stuck to like the technology area. Even if you weren't a good coder, you still made sure that's your interest. So you, instead of making it, you selling it. I think that's a really good point, right?
Absolutely.
Like a lot of people stick to like one path, right? If your parents say you have to be a doctor, then you got to be a doctor, but you kind of like stuck to the interest, what you like, and like went around that, which is really nice.
Yeah, absolutely. I think tech was just something that fascinated me from an early age. And even if I'm not able to build it, being around people that build it, learning from them, educating myself, even understanding, what the difference is in like, like almost like good tech versus like bad tech. Like,
also just it's always evolving, right? Like tech, hasn't stopped, right? So as that evolves, you can change how you market it, and it just everything changes every day, right?
I think if you build it and you market the living crap out of it, then they might
Hmm.
come.
Yeah.
And tech is so competitive and it's so ever evolving that like
Yeah.
it's almost like strategy and a prayer have to go together, you know?
Yeah. There's so many people in technology is crazy and more interest in it too as
Yep,
well. Now everyone's going into STEM.
absolutely.
And talking about like the work culture, right? How you talked about you learning from everyone. How's the day to day for you at your job?
The day-to-day is very interesting. Obviously, as a marketer, you have like your suite of services or your tool set, right? Just like any other trade that you're kind of like using or monitoring on a day-to-day basis, whether it be like ads, whether it be content marketing, whether it be the website, because the website's, you know, really for like a lot of inbound tech marketers, it is like the bread and butter of how you kind of like amplify your brand. But then
Hmm.
other parts of it is constantly learning about what is it that you're marketing, right? Like there's two parts to it. One is becoming a better marketer, and then the other is becoming a better, almost like a better technologist, right? Like
Yeah.
um, understanding that if data and analytics is moving way more towards business intelligence and machine learning, well, then how does that translate into what that means for the brand, and how does that translate into what that means for customer problems?
Yeah. And your day to day sounds really interesting, right? It's like every day something's always changing, something's always different. And you have to
Yep.
relate to many different aspects, right? A lot of people look at just you make ad and then you're done. They've uploaded it, you're good. But I think like your example, right? Just so much deeper. So you talked about you had an interest in technology since you were young. But what about marketing? How did you develop an interest and passion for that?
I think the way marketing kind of plays is, and to be very honest, like even graduating from marketing, I didn't understand what it meant from a inbound marketing perspective. Like
Hmm.
what I learned in marketing was very marketing is like the four P's. If you're like
Yep.
product marketing, but when you start to understand that you're not always selling a product that's like on the shelf somewhere, right? Like sometimes you're selling something that's like technology, like you can't even like physically touch it,
Yeah.
and then you can't price it, right? Like if you wanted to get an app built today, it's not like you follow the four P's. They're so dynamic, it's so interesting and like
Hmm.
kind of like ambiguous in its own way. So when I went into sales, it was very much that the fact that you had to get leads, and like the way the traditional sales function was, like I was saying, was very Wolf of Wall Street, where you have like you're doing research on LinkedIn, you're cold calling potential prospects that you think are going to need technology services, and you're kind of hoping to hit them at the right way. So
Hmm.
like there's so much that's flawed with that. Like it's a strategy, but it's almost like if you do it enough times, you'll get lucky once, right? It's almost like
Yeah.
trying to like put a lottery or whatnot, right? A bit better odds, but like just from that perspective. Um, so what I started learning from a very early on in my career was it's good to have mentors, right?
Yeah.
So I went out and I seeked a few mentors, and they were kind of like looking at my personality, the way I interact with people, my relationship building skills, and they just said, you know, you might want to try marketing instead. And one of my mentors gave me a book to read, Inbound Marketing by I think the founder of HubSpot, very early on, like in
Oh.
my career. And I read that book, and I was just amazed that people actually buy this way. Like it's so obvious now, but like the fact that someone might go looking for like $100,000 worth of services on Google, right?
Hmm.
And so just learning that there's a buyer journey that's happening online all the time, and you're just not finding those people because you're not visible, became very interesting to me. And it was like, okay, I could try calling 100 people and trying to like tell them about my brand, or I could really build up like a great content marketing strategy and go that way. And so the objective was always for me was like lead generation, which is really it's a function of marketing and sales. But I just found it to be a more effective way of doing it. And I think it combined what I really love, which is storytelling. And if you really think about at the heart of it, I'd say all marketers are really good storytellers.
For sure. And those mentors, right? Who were the type of mentors you had showing you the way and like teaching you about marketing or your passion?
I would make almost anyone I saw that like I kind of like look up to as a mentor. And one of the things I would definitely say is I never shied away. Like,
Yeah.
they will say no to you. It is a very unlikely possibility. I mean, people love bestowing knowledge on other people. I think that's probably one of the reasons I did this podcast.
Yeah.
Like people who are experienced want to help others, and they definitely want to help those who are eager to learn. And so I would go to networking events. I would find friends of friends. I would just pretty much find people who are very similar in around like either my industry or the function that I do, whether it's sales or marketing, and just try to understand, how did you get to where you are? And if here's my problem, and I would love to present them with a problem set I was having, how might you go about it? And understanding how they dissect the problem and the advice that they give you, just taking that and running with it. But really, like the number one step is get out of your comfort zone and don't be afraid. Absolutely.
Even TMG right now, right? They're running a mentorship program we're running right now.
Yep.
So you get alumni, and we have them with the students for second year, third year students, any student from all 4 years, just to teach them more about marketing and help them kind of plan their future. So I think what you said just speaks volumes to that, and why people should get into that mentoring idea, because you're kind of learning from someone who's done it, and they can help you discover what you really like, right?
Absolutely. Like one of my favorite stories is a friend of mine introduced me to her contact, who was working as an ad buyer at an agency. And I had no idea what advertising was. I'm like a cold salesperson. And at the company I work for at that time is an app development company, and they have no marketing team. And so this person literally spends almost 2 hours on the phone with me and says, if you're not spending on Google, you're wasting money, you're wasting lead gen opportunity. And I literally just take that line and I go to my boss. I'm like, if we're not spending money on Google, we're wasting lead gen opportunity. It's just it's great because there's so much that you learn that you just don't have experience to, right? And that's the whole point of having mentors, is they have visibility over what you don't have, and they're going to give you that visibility in a very concise manner.
Yeah, that's just that school doesn't teach you this kind of stuff, right? That's the kind of thing mentors can do. Experiences, you can learn about the 4 Ps, but you're not gonna really see that until you're in there doing the hard work, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. And talking about how you went up, what are the skills that you needed to get up to where you were at, to the position you are at today?
So I think the biggest thing I had to learn was everything that we do as marketers is really it's very much like building. You have tools, like I mentioned, especially for me, I'm like an inbound marketer. We have this thing called a website. We have this platforms called ads. We have this thing called blog writing and all that. All of that is great. And no matter what, that's always going to be there if you're a marketer, right? The hardest part of all of that was, how do you combine that with what your customer journey is? And so if I was to tell you what my number one skill as a marketer is to listen. More than anything is to listen to the customer, listen to the people who are learning from your customer, and just become almost like a detective and like a journalist almost, to understand how does your customer buy. So really being able to understand our customers' empathy, their buyer journey, their frustrations as they go through that process of making a decision, and then using what I have in my arsenal, like my marketing tools, and combining the two is what really, I think, elevates a decent marketer to the next level.
Yeah, and you talked about also earlier, also just getting out of your comfort zone, which I really liked as a skill. I think even if that's considered a skill, yes, but I think that's also really important as well. How you talked about you can relate to everyone, but having that skill, just being able to do more than what you're normally used to, I think that's really important as well.
And I would say what even elevates you one level up as a marketer is not being afraid to fail. If we're talking about out of your comfort zone, one of the methodologies I kind of learned from software development is just kind of like they call it lean and agile, where you fail fast, you fail often, but you get feedback right away, right? Exactly. The idea of you have something in your mind you want to test, you think it might work, but it's not. It's the opportunity isn't the fact that you tried something and you failed. It's the opportunity of it's in your head and you can't get it out. That's the opportunity cost. So the idea of failing fast and learning from your mistakes is probably one of the greatest kind of like methodologies I would say I have as a marketer. I'm never afraid to go to my senior leadership team and say, here's my hypothesis, here's what I believe, I want to test this, I'm going to use a little bit of data to kind of like funnel my analysis, and here's what I expect, and I'm going to use this much budget and really just get it out there. And I think not being afraid to try new things and really having a methodology for making it work is really what takes like good marketers to the top.
Yeah, a lot of people's things are they don't want to fail, but failure is kind of what builds you, right? You succeed, you go on next, but failure, you step back and you look at yourself and what you did and then work on that, right? You build upon yourself. I think failure is really what builds someone, right? And everyone says it everywhere.
Yep. You know what the best thing as a marketer is? There's no such thing as failing, because everything is tracked through data. So if you failed, all you did was gather new data. So it's not even like
that's true. Yeah, I get what you're saying. If a product fails, then you can find out, oh, it didn't work here, then go next, see what else it works with. Yeah.
Exactly. If you advertise to like people for something that are like age 65 and up and they didn't buy, well, now you know your market's not the age 65 and up, and you have the data to back that up. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. And I know for anyone watching this, mainly the students, right? I'm just also a student as well, so they probably won't care what I have to say about their skills. But coming from you, what skills do you think the students should work on for their future and just becoming like more experienced and building themselves up to where you are, basically?
Absolutely. So I think two skills that have really helped me. One is really understanding analytics. As marketers, believe me when I say everything is tracked, like every single thing, like where did your eyes go on a website is tracked. Like how long did you spend on a page? You know, like what pages did you visit? What is your personality like? All these things, there's so much data, and the ability to make sense of that data and to kind of distill it down to something that has quantifiable meaning is an absolute skill. And I think that's part one. Mm-hmm. Part two to that is how you story tell that data. If I am in a room with decision makers, it's not always C-level executives. Sometimes it's just other directors, other people I'm trying to get buy-in from. And I am trying to get their time, their resource, their expertise for something. And they have a million other things to work on. And they're going to be like, why should I help you? How you combine that data to storytelling what you actually want, or the picture you're trying to paint, is absolutely imperative. And to all the students out there who are listening, I would say one of the top skills to work on as a marketer is presenting. You're always going to be presenting. Learn to be a confident presenter. Learn to talk. Learn to kind of start your audience somewhere and bring them to a conclusion or to a point that you want to kind of bring them down to, because I think that's going to be something that never goes away, even from your business 100 classes right down to like your last day as like whatever you do as a marketer. You're always going to be presenting, and you're always going to be communicating. I think those are some of the top three skills I would say: analytical skills, presentation skills, and just being a top-notch communicator.
Yeah, and maybe school doesn't teach you everything, but one thing they do is presenting, right? If they put you in groups, you present. That's the one thing they always focus on. So that's experience. Every time you talk to someone, you talk in front of a group, I think that's just presenting right there. That builds experience like every day, not even just school or work.
Yep.
And I think it's important just building that connection as well, even if you don't know the person. Just getting to know them at a personal level and really express what you mean. Yeah, 100%. In the next 10 years, where do you see yourself?
That's interesting, because it's funny because I really enjoy helping others. I'm a mentor myself. Mm-hmm. I could honestly see myself being a consultant and just really helping marketing teams. That's what I enjoy doing. A lot of the time, what I find is marketing teams exist, but they have a hard time just connecting the dots to fundamentals. And that's what I love to do, is just kind of bring people back to square one and understand, what is the point of doing all this? What are we trying to accomplish? And then how do you kind of get the fundamentals of like really good inbound marketing and applying it? So I'd love to consult people. I would love to kind of run my own thing of just helping others.
So like your own kind of mentoring business and marketing, that kind of idea in 10 years?
Yeah, like I see, I've seen in my own industry a lot of like senior consultants that are out there. that
Hmm.
pretty much have like 20, 30 years of experience. And there's like companies that are begging for that kind of experience to come in, build out a team, get like the engine in place, and then really kind of like let them smooth sail. That's what I would love to do.
Like being like the veteran of the team, that kind of thing, like team captain, and then you kind of
Yeah,
let them
very
figure it
much
out.
so.
Yeah. You talked about the industry, right? So where do you see the future of the technological marketing?
If you see where marketing goes, it really does follow like a technology curve, right?
Hmm.
You have, traditional marketing, then marketing moves to like radio because radio comes out because technology advanced radio. Then you kind of have TV coming out and now there's ads coming out. All of a sudden, everyone's on the web. And now you're just like, okay, but where do you go from the web? Well, the web evolves so much, right? Like, I don't know how old you are, but I still remember like old text-based websites and you used to have like old text-based ads. But maybe the screens get smaller or the way we see the technology changes. But what's happening in like the back end is even more exciting. So
Hmm.
back in the day, I used to want to just advertise to anyone who I think might be interested in a keyword, right?
Yeah.
Now you have such amazing algorithms, you have AI coming in, you have machine learning coming in, you have data points that are coming in to the point where I think marketers are going to become so powerful with data that they can pretty much pinpoint like almost like customized opportunities for individuals because they have so much data at their fingertips. And I think what ultimately rules marketing is how much data you collect and what you do with that data.
Yeah.
And I think we're at the cusp of like data driven marketing on a human perspective. But I think what we're going to start seeing is like data driven marketing from an AI perspective, where a marketer is really, using their creativity and working with AI to make very intelligent decisions based on like data points and kind of like market trends, if you will.
Yeah, that's some nice insider info about the technological marketing, the possible future. Um, yeah,
Yeah,
but
I definitely think data is like in the future of marketing, data is going to be king. I mean, it
mhm.
already is, but it's going to be even more. But not even at this point. Right now, it's all about collecting data and making human decisions from it. But I definitely think AI, machine learning, like smart algorithms, are going to help marketers make even more pinpoint decisions.
Yeah, and that's definitely a harder question to answer because of how much technology is changing. So yeah, for sure, that's definitely tough to answer, and hopefully that's the future, using AI and just
Yeah,
making it easier.
absolutely.
And we've talked about like the three key points to skills: analytics, presentation, communication. Do you have any maybe basic advice or specific advice for students who plan to go into the marketing field?
Yes. I would say the number one thing I've also learned, just kind of like as a soft skill of just kind of my own philosophy, is to question everything. There's a very famous quote in like a book I read, which is like, the first step to innovation is to claim ignorance. And I 100% believe that. If you come in with a bias for certain things, then your bias is going to rule that decision making. But if you come in and this is especially for the younger folks, I know like older people will always kind of get mad because they're stuck in their ways, but um, don't go in and just assume that things are the way they are. Always question why, and always question how can they become better, because in that is your opportunity. And so if you want to innovate, you have to claim ignorance. You have to learn as if you're learning for the first time. And I do that as a marketer all the time. Even if I think, oh, this is how it's always been done, I will still ask myself, is there a better way it can be done, and why am I skipping the step? Don't skip any steps. Ask yourself, why does that exist? And always be curious, and curiosity always leads to innovation, because you kind of find holes where people have obviously like overlooked it or whatnot.
And as a student, and speaking on behalf of students, school does not teach you that, right? That is something you're not going to get from school. I hope everyone takes something away from that, because that's something you either learn from experience or you learn from someone who's experienced it. But that's something school won't teach you.
I always ask myself, why am I overlooking things that shouldn't be overlooked, and finding curiosity in it.
And I hope the people watching this can take away and learn from your experience for all the future marketers from the UTSC or U of T in general.
100%, man.
But I want to just thank you again for your time, for coming on here and providing students such wonderful experience knowledge.
Yeah, always happy to help the marketing community expand and grow. And I'm very excited to see where the students of tomorrow take marketing, from what it is today to what it's going to become.
And I'm going to speak about our next event really quickly. Revive, our case competitions, which is simulation based. Watch out for that from all TMG socials. Thank you for watching. We're the Herd, and you're hearing us.